Hello, welcome. I'm Alan Palmer. Welcome to my apartment. It was good living in Japan to get used to small spaces. And this is essentially one room, beautifully designed. It was done in the 60s. And it sort of fits my small world of tea. And I was wondering where to begin. And we're well along on the way. This is lecture number 4. They sort of blend in my mind, and it's good to have Anthony and Tanya to help me sort out some of this stuff. Wonderful, wonderful things. I realized that I've been involved with Japan for a very long time. Expo 70 was the first time there, but I was interested in Japan when I was a child. When I was a little kid in Chicago, we didn't even have pizza places. This wasn't in the 19th century. This was in the 40s when I was a little boy in Chicago. And pizza places, 1 or 2 were open. By high school, yes, there were. But there was Chinese takeout. We were an ordinary family that did go out to eat very much. We ate at home, children of the Depression. But I can remember going to a Chinese restaurant, and there on the paper placemat were all these animals and interesting words and what you could expect in your life and fortune cookies and all that. Oh, those fortune cookies, by the way, were, as many of you probably know, were made by the Japanese for a big event in the early 20th century. I can't remember when the date was, but San Francisco, the Japanese made some senbei and put a fortune in it somehow, and the Chinese took them over. But I can remember, oh, I'm a tiger. Oh, I'm a tiger. What are you? In high school, not too many people were interested or knew about those things unless they were Chinese or been to a Chinese restaurant. And it was, what sign are you? Aquarius or Leo. But in Japan, that's very, very popular as well. Our Zodiac, animal circle, I think it is, Zodiac. And it's a wonderful system of 12 animals, just as the West has 12 animals. And for some reason, I committed it to memory. I might have gone into the theater, except that I couldn't remember lines. Songs, yes, but not lines. But some things you should commit to memory. Ne, ushi, tora, u, tatsu, mi, uma, hitsuji, saru, tori, inu, I. Those are the 12 animals. They have their own kanji, their own character, which is different from the animal itself. And we'll sort of touch on that as we go through. I don't know the Western Zodiac. I can't rattle them off. Our Zodiac, the Western Zodiac, is not quite so pervasive. Pervasive is not the word. It's done in everything. This book, which is a Japanese calendar, the Koyomi, I get it every year. I can only read about, well, 1 out of 100 pages. I can read parts of it. But it all has to do with the animals and a few dozen other things. Position of stars when the moon is up and in the 7th house and things like that. But this goes back a long time, thousands of years, perhaps. And it's incredibly complex. I know this is sort of more than challenging, but each vertical line is a day. And then we have the moon. Thank goodness we have the moon. We have the sun, the solar calendar, and the lunar calendar. And this year we had an urudoshi. I think we had a 2nd, 4th moon. Our calendar stays the same. Once in a while, we'll add a day at the end of February. That's when I started tea, on February 29th, a leap year in 1972, year of the rat. It was a much better year, that year of the rat. Well, I didn't know until, well, quite a while ago now, that each of these animal signs, the rat, for example, has a guardian, a Buddhist guardian. I don't think a tremendous number of people know that. It's in the book. Read the book. And each sign has a Buddhist guardian, and the rat has a guardian of Kannon, the goddess of mercy, and so forth. But there are only 8 deities, and there are 12 signs, so we're going to try to figure that out too. But let's start with something that you may be familiar with, and that's the 10 ox pictures. We're talking about animals and how they're involved in tea. And in Zen in particular, there is the story, the picture story of the 10 ox pictures. It's a boy and his ox. It was really a water buffalo. And it's gone. And he looks for it. And his finding the ox, and bringing it back home, and goes through stages. And this is a sort of parable on attaining enlightenment. It's an extremely interesting story. It's filled with quotable quotes. The willow is green and the flower is red. Yanagi wa midori hana kurenai. All, not all, many come from the commentaries to the 10 ox pictures. And our first picture today is of the boy with his ox. He sees the ox. Interesting little watercolor and writing, calligraphy up above. This was originally a shikishi, but it was unmounted. I don't know that that's actually the word. It was taken off the board and mounted onto a scroll. And the scroll is ready-made, so to speak. You can go to your hanging scroll store. There are galleries in Japan that have scrolls ready with images and calligraphy on them, and also tools to make your own, as it were. And the writing on this one, some of it will be familiar to you, and I will read it. It is, well, see cow, well, ox, really. And Kengyu is the Japanese for that. And Hinata fu wa ganryu ao. The sun is warm, the wind is soft, by the shore the willow is green. There's our Yanagi wa Midori. Hana kurenai will appear in picture number 9. One has to go, of course, through the sequence. And number 8, familiar to probably everybody, is a circle. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But the ox, water buffalo, and in this picture, in fact, it is a water buffalo, which as it should be. So let's move on to I've never, well, I haven't mentioned this before, but when you arrive for a tea, you arrive at perhaps somebody's home. Let's say it's somebody's home, at a typical Japanese house. And you would enter the genkan, this sort of almost public place. If the door is ajar, it's open to the public, but the public should not go further into the house unless you're invited. And then you would go into a separate room where you would change out of your hakama or into your hakama, depending on what you are wearing for that tea. And also I would put on my jittok, my Buddhist-inspired robe that I was given in 1976 when I was asked by Hohensai to come to Boston to teach. So that's the yoritsuke. And you might have some interesting object, hanging, picture, something that might be a sort of hint at what the theme of the tea was going to be that day. And that is in the yoritsuke. And then you would go into the machiai where you would gather. You don't have to arrive in a group unless you want to, or unless you happen to, but you assemble in the machiai. And the machiai is where we have a wonderful poem. Took me a while to figure out what it was, but I was visiting Byodo-in, which is down in Uji, and one of the most famous buildings well, certainly in Japan, but probably in the world. It's on the 10-yen coin. It is the Ho-do, which I thought was quite amusing, that a word could be Ho-do. The Phoenix Hall. It's briefer in English. And this is a poem written by, as far as I can find out, a not terribly well-known poet in Japan, a woman, Iwai Shiko. Rockwell Purple Fragrance. I think the Purple Fragrance was a poetic name, but the poem is Raigo Bana Unchu Bosatsu Teri Kaze Hikaru. A haiku. Raigo Bana, approaching flower. Bosatsu, bodhisattvas, Buddhas who are not yet fully evolved, one might say. Teri, shining. The wind is bright. If you've ever been to Uji and Byodo-in and gone into the Ho-do, it's a marvelous, very inspired by Chinese architecture. It looks exotic. It really does. It's raised off the ground. The wings are raised off the ground. And inside it is an absolutely beautiful seated image of Amida, the Buddha of mercy. So I could spend a very long time. Now, when you plan a tea, actually, I should stop for just a moment. The reason I brought the subject of the Ho-do is that the phoenix, although not one of the 12 animal signs, is of a tremendous importance in design in Japan, and especially in the Muromachi period in the 12th and 13th centuries and on, even in the Heian period. And so when you plan a tea, really outside of the tea, which is the #1 most important thing, but on the spiritual side, the tokonoma, what scroll are you going to be displaying? That really is the start of at least my tea. And then you would have something in the machiai that might hint at that, or be quite open about it. In this case, it is the phoenix. There are 2 phoenixes. They're not Egyptian phoenixes. These are Eastern, Asian, Chinese phoenixes. And there's 3 kinds at least. And Hohensai is one of those phoenixes. His Ho, his phoenix, is beautiful kanji, and it fits him perfectly. Almost everything else should fall into place. If you only have 1 scroll and only have 1 bowl and only have 1 kama, you can make wonderful tea. So don't feel as though you need everything in the world. Because I teach, I want to share a lot. This is furo season, but in the rose season, I would bring out this next object, which is a Chinese incense container. It's only, well, let's see how, it's 1.7 sun kanejaku diameter. So little, well, around 2 inches. Absolutely marvelous piece. I didn't realize how great it was until many years later when I really examined it carefully. And we have the great balance of here the phoenix and the dragon. The dragon is up and the phoenix is down. This only in this juxtaposition. But the phoenix, the whole, may be based on a kind of bird, maybe a pheasant, maybe a parrot even. Yes, and it's semi-real. The phoenix has become sort of mythical, but it's based on a real creature, whereas the dragon may be a dinosaur or an alligator, but it's definitely not a real creature. And so he is Inoryo, she is Inoryo. Well, as he and she, they would be In and Yo, but he's not real. So he is more Yo, and she's very real. So she is In, right? If it's a thing, it's In. And that little hole, raised hole, that little, well, I have to say it, the donut is the wish-granting pearl, the wish-granting gem, the hoju, the treasure jewel, and they are contesting over it. Quite often there's a pair of dragons, we'll see them, and they are contesting over that pearl of great truth, the hoju, the treasure jewel. So let's move on. We have lots and lots to cover. And this is our tokonoma, and I'm sure there are those of you out there saying, you're putting that up for a tea? It's pretty big, isn't it? Yes, it is pretty big, isn't it? And it's probably Chinese as well. When you get things on the internet, often they attract you for one reason and not necessarily because it's not this or not that. And this is definitely it. And it fortunately just fits into my tokonoma. This is my tokonoma. I have no apologies to make about it. And it is the dragon leaps and the phoenix dances. You, he, whole boot. And some writing on the side, which I've only been able to think I figured out one character. I cannot read it at all. The mounting does seem quite Chinese, especially the fabric. Quite beautiful and very bold. Well, it only dawned on me a few years ago that this could be displayed for Hinamatsuri. The dragon is the emperor, and the phoenix is his empress, Ohina-sama. If you'll ever notice, she has a phoenix on her crown, and he might have a dragon on his costume. But there they are. I think it's quite wonderful, absolutely quite wonderful. The Hanayide was made by Susan Becker and Cap, a fellow who makes her bamboo utensils, and the eternal tessen. This truly is a tessen because it does have a metal wire, and the kogo, little unusual. There's a little word play it here. The bamboo could not be simpler, except that you try to make one. And it has stamped on it a little dragonfly. So I couldn't help but the pun of the dragon flies and the dragonfly. Wonderful emblem of autumn. And the kogo is an ink paste container. I'm a tiger, and I have lots of things that are tigers, and it's nice to know what somebody likes, or you know they like it, and so you can get them things. The time of gift giving may come to an end, or should, you know. Christmas really does seem for kids, but it's nice to get presents. It really is. Well, this I sort of recognized. It's quite unusual, I think. I have not seen many metal kogel, and I don't mind it at all, but Rikyu said if you can substitute metal for something, do so. Ceramic or wood or lacquer or something other than metal, because metal can be turned into money. My art history background goes to Greece and Rome, and the baldacchino in the middle of St. Peter's was made from rosettes that came off of the ceiling of the Pantheon. And the Pantheon rosettes came out of coins that were minted to decorate that place. And those coins often came from Greek bronzes that were copied in marble and then melt down for money. So sometimes it all comes back to money, but if you've got a lot of money, you can give it to God if you like. Well, this image, they don't have tigers in Japan, at least not in the wild. I don't know that they ever did, but I was given by Anthony and his lovely wife a kobuxa. And the kobuxa I have to put to display the kogel. And there is the tiger, slightly altered. He's altered a little bit. And this is based on Fusuma paintings by Kano Eitoku. And these screens, these Fusuma screens, are in the main hall of the temple of Jukoin. Jukoin is up in Ohara. This is Jukoin. It's the Sen family temple. And Rikyu's Ohaka, his grave, is there at Jukoin. And so the tiger is on the other side. This is trick photography here. This is the front and the back on a fukusa, but it's just the gold fabric, and it is shoha. And the image is take ni tora, bamboo in tiger. Sometimes, like French wine, you have to read it backwards. So this is really tigers in bamboo, not bamboo in tigers. But take ni tora. There are many animals that are associated with plants, a certain plant. And tigers are associated with bamboo. My fukusa for today was a gift from Sen Tomiko, and it's perhaps rather pastel for a man of a certain age, well, a man of any age really, but I have no problem with that, nor should anyone. Color is color. And these are three monkeys. You remember see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Well, they're coming up a little bit later. But these little circles are dolls, and the dolls are made of a square of fabric that's stitched up so that they make 4 points. Let that be it. And then you tie the toes together and they make these little spheres. Then you add a little cloth ball for his or her head. These are kukuri zaru, and they can decorate shrines. There's a famous shrine in Kyoto on the east side in the Higashiyama area that has thousands of these little kukuri zaru. The Nijiriguchi, the crawling in entrance to the tea room, used to be called the Kukuri Guchi, the crawling in entrance. But Hideyoshi was physically not, I guess, very attractive, and he was hunchback, and he was rather like a monkey. And he looked, if you see some of his portraits, they do look a little simian. And I think he probably might have objected to Kukuri Zaru and Kukuri Guchi. I'm only making this up. But I know that it was changed at some time to Nijiri. Niji. So wonderful fabric designed for the Year of the Monkey by Sen Tomiko. We have wonderful, wonderful memories of her, especially in her wonderful sense of design. If you look closely, there's Shochikubai decoration on the monkeys. So very happy for the new year, but do remember that that year of the monkey, you can use it all year long. Often people just use them in the new year, but really and truly they can be throughout the year. So moving on into the cha dogu, this is the dogu that is up now. There are dragons everywhere. There's Rikyu, of course, watching over all of it happily. The furo is called a Kimenburo. It has demon masks. There are demon masks also on the kansuki, the lugs on the kama, where you slip in the metal ring to move the kama. I designed this, well, I can't say I designed it. I chose this. The dealer did the the tea utensil dealer, wasn't so keen on my picking that kama for that furo. But if Rikyu did it, you know, I think I could do it too. The rings are up when there's a fire in it, and they're down when you are building a fire or there is no fire in it. So there's a yin and yang there. If the mizusashi itself had holders and rings on the side too, those rings would be hanging down, kind of like rain falling. So it would be in, and fire up. So maybe yo on those. They're meant to carry the furo, but I wouldn't. Use some other means. The tana, marujoku, created by Sotan, he evidently fished a sake barrel out of the ogawa that was in front of his house. At least I'm assuming it was the ogawa. It was a sake tub. I don't think it looked like this at all, but he used it, and I'm not sure exactly what it looked like. I don't even know that it exists. Maybe somebody out there does. One would think at Urasenke it might surface every now and then, but eventually he had it lacquered black by Ikkan, and which means it's papered and then lacquered. Very distinctive. It's not a stool. There was a visitor one time at Urasenke and thought, oh, a place to sit, and that was the end of Sotan's marujoku. Round stand. Joku means that it's borrowed from something else, like an incense burner stand, for example. Rikyu's marujoku is borrowed. That's a joku. Sotan marujoku, it was a sake barrel. Right. The mizusashi is Chinese. There's a lot of Chinese things running around. Japan loved China, loves China, and its art, much as Americans liked French art in the 19th century. European has got to be better. French fries, remember that whole fuss about French fries? And this I got in a little Chinese shop downtown, Boston, Chinatown. There were brushes in it, so it's a brush rinser, and it has 10,000 leagues with no barrier, and 2 dragons. We'll see a little bit of it later. On the tana is a well, I would say it is terracotta, and it comes from the kilns of Tokoname. And anything that is this porous, has this porous a surface, will eat as much tea as a person who drinks it. So be prepared to sacrifice some tea that you cannot get out of the container, but it has a dragon on it. So that's why it's making his appearance here today. And so moving on, and I think we'll stop off at a few things along the way, like the furo. I've left the kan in to show that it does have kan. I think this image looks quite fierce. I've spent years really trying to figure out exactly what are those demon masks. And they are the face, the head of a phoenix. And there's two of them. At Byodoin, the two phoenixes face inward. These are facing outward. And yesterday, I got quite turned around by the fact that I thought they might have been influenced by Garuda, the great, rather terrifying bird man in India, who was created out of fire, brings water, very, very complex, but dedicated to the Buddha as well as in the Hindu faith. I have a close-up of it. It's supposed to be scary, but I'm not sure. It's scary for somebody who doesn't know what it is, but it's got ears. So does a phoenix have ears? Well, a phoenix has something like ears. Of course they have ears, but they're hidden behind feathers. And what are those fangs? It's sort of a combination of a dragon and a phoenix. I think I'll leave it right there. You can ponder that, but let's move on down. I did want to share with you, and I don't have a picture of it, is that the Dragon King, those two dragons we see on the sides of the Mizusashi, a pair of them, probably a male and female, we can't jump to conclusions, but the Dragon King had 9 sons, so I guess he had to have some means of creating them. And quite often we see designs, often a lion incense burner, for example. Well, that isn't a lion at all. That is one of the 9 sons of the Dragon King. And the Dragon King's realm is in the ocean, under the sea. This is such a complicated story. It truly is. If we look at the Mizusashi again for just a moment, near the rim, we see that I would call it a Greek meander pattern, but that is lightning. Remember, we've seen lightning pattern before, that little zigzag curling in almost like the hook from which you can hang a scroll in the tokonoma, but that's lightning. And dragons bring lightning and thunder and rain and destruction and water for the fields. They've each got their treasure jewel, so there's no squabbling over that, which is a good thing. So moving on down to the Chaide and the Chaide, Tamba. It's not exactly representing any animals, but the Shifuku certainly is. The Shifuku is a pair of phoenixes. The whole, the male and female. This fabric, some of you may know the design. It is called Futari Shizuka, 2 persons quiet. Her name was Shizuka, quiet. And it's featured in a no play, her story, and the story is called Futari Shizuka. You know the type. The woman arrives, and the priest tells the story, and Then she puts on something which happens to be Shizuka's old robe. Shizuka was the familiar, the consort, I guess is the word for it, for Yoshimitsu. Somebody out there who's a history fan will know that instantly and can tell me later. I forget at the moment. But eventually, the real Shizuka, well, the spirit of Shizuka comes out and the two of them dance together, Futari, Shizuka. Many people think that the two phoenixes are, in fact, the Shizukas, but that has not been made certain. The chashaku is a gift from dear friend Christy Bartlett, teaching Urasenke in San Francisco for many, many, many years, wonderful years. And it's made out of tiger bamboo. So not only is it take wa tora, tora wa take, play on the words there. And it is called Yoo-hoo. Suddenly I realized that it might be Yoo-hoo, but I don't think that's what it is. Yoo-hoo is hero wind. And that's what tigers make when they roar, that sound of a hero, and causing the wind to blow. Quite wonderful, made by Maeda Sogen, and given the name Yu-fu by the abbot of Zuiko-in. Wonderful. He's very prolific, does wonderful things. I could linger and lurk, but look what I found next. This is only a couple of days ago. That's a standard chashaku, which happens to measure rokusun, 6 sun kane, and a kuromoji. This is what Rikyu would prefer, or at least Urasenke uses them for eating sweets, give them as a souvenir. And look where the nakabushi is. And one of them is straight and pointed, and one of them is flared and rounded. Isn't that wonderful? I think that's just absolutely wonderful. The end also, we can't see the end of the chashaku. It's cut off at a bevel. And the bark of the kuromoji has been beveled. Kuromoji, the characters indicate black letter character, but moji is wordplay on greenish, and the bark of kuromoji wood is slightly greenish, and when you get them, sometimes some of them are quite green. I just thought that was really spectacular. The teishu handles the chashaku to put tea into something, and the guest, the kyaku, cuts and spears the sweet to eat the sweet. I think those parallels need a lot more thought than just my mentioning them. So moving on, our chawan today is from Ginkakuji. I was the tour guide for Midori Kai group at Urasenke when I was teaching there. Because of my fussiness, they called me Oka-san, which I can deal with too. In case you don't know, it means mother, but I'd rather be mother than something else. And so as omiyage, a souvenir of my being the guide at Ginkakuji, in the Togudo, in the Dojinsai, which we'll discuss next time. I hope you're with me next time to hear my thoughts on what's really going on in the Togudo. I think you might be surprised. And here is the tea container. I got it as kind of, well, it's about the size, and I've really grown to like it very much. This was a style, especially for jardiniers, garden pots in the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. Quite charming. Again, that lightning. You can't have dragons without lightning. I think quite charming. And then the higashibon for today was a gift from Yasuko Bush, who's a monkey. It's nice to give things to remind others that, anyway, she's a wonderful monkey. Great, great artist as well. And this is 3 bells in the shape of those wonderful monkeys. And those monkeys, I have it written down here, so those of you who get this study guide will be able to memorize them. San En, 3 monkeys. En is one of the readings for monkey, and it's Mizaru, Kikazaru, Iwazaru. I've never been able to remember that for some reason. See no evil, we would say, and hear no evil. See no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. Now, this all is based on a wordplay on Saru. Saru is the name of a monkey, Saru. And when it's in combination with another word before it, like mi, to see, Mizaru is see monkey. But in the sound of Japanese, that saru becomes zaru. And Mizaru sounds like another word, which means see not monkey. See not. Kikazaru, hear not monkey. And that's why you can see them if you look a little closely. One's got his paws in front of his eyes and ears and mouth. Really charming. These are little ceramic bells that go clunky, clunky rather than tinkle, tinkle. Now, I really and truly could go on to our gotoku. And our gotoku, I could probably wear you out with what I've got recently on the gotoku. It doesn't really fit in, but it is in and yo, and it's one of the objects that Rikyū picked to use as a futaoki. Remember that a futaoki is a cylinder. That's it. That's it. So anything else isn't, but you can use it as a futaoki. And this is the way a gotoku was used. And it's an absolutely super example of in and yo. In is the circle, and yo is the little corners of the triangle. So in is up and yo is down, but you turn it over. I said last time, or the time before, that Rikyū was the one who, evidently, was the one who turned it over to use the prongs up. And I think it was to get the number 3 and make a triangle so that we would have the square of the two, the nimonji, the 4 corners of the ash against the furo wall, and also the circle furo. So we would have those 3 basic shapes, but there's lots and lots, including a wonderful picture from the Higashiyama period of dogu in the wall. This is before the daisu, probably, that the utensils were in the wall. And look, there's the gotoku futaoki with 1 foot forward. I rest my case. There's such a story about that, but that's another time. And notice that the kensui is off the shelf. And boy, I love that furo. It looks like it has lots of fun. Now, let's try to move on. I will try to move on into the Yojo Han and see if we can figure all of this out. This is Anthony's marvelous reworking, or I should say working, of my drawing. And let's look at it for a while. You may need to enlarge, I don't know if you can enlarge your screen, but to look carefully up at the north. Ne ushi tora, u tatsumi, uma hitsuji, saru tori inui. Those are the 12 animals. And ne is at the top, nezumi. It's ne. It's in the north. And now going clockwise, we come to Ushi and Tora, ox and tiger, coming around to about what would be 3 o'clock, but it's actually 6 o'clock in the morning. The rat is midnight, right? 6 in the morning is the usagi, the u. And then we get to about 4:30 and we have tatsu and me, dragon and snake. And then we get to uma, horse, and horse is in the south. It's also noon. So we have a 24-hour clock. And then moving on, hitsuji and saru is ram and monkey. There's our monkey. Hitsuji, saru. Moving on to 6 at night is is tori, the rooster, the cock, the chicken. It's kind of interesting that the character for tori, for rooster, is in fact a sake bottle. So it's 6 o'clock somewhere. And then next is inu, our dog, and is united with inoshishi, or e. So rat, ox, tiger, hare, really, hare, H-A-R-E, then dragon and snake, and horse, ram, monkey, cock, dog, and wild boar. Inoshishi. Inoshishi is Hoonsai Daisosho. He is Inoshishi. I think you can find yourself here. Well, I said that there were 12. Now, they have guardians. The year of the rat, as I said earlier, was guarded, protected by Kannon, the thousand-handed Kannon, goddess of mercy. In the north, associated with water. We've got water involved in this. And this is where the trigrams of the Ekikyo, or the I Ching, come in. I know this is a lot of information. I have been studying this for 40 plus years, and I learn something new every single time I look at it. So please, please don't be overwhelmed by all of this material. It'd be like looking at a map of Europe and said, oh my goodness, how can I possibly do all of it? One at a time, one at a time. Now, I said there were 8 guardian deities. And so the animals double up. Ushitora, Ushitora. Ushitora is the standard direction. That's the northeast, Ushitora. And that's not a very pleasant place. No, it's a pleasant enough place, but it's got strong winds. And so sometimes I'm quite convinced that the demon gate, this is called the demon gate, Ushitora, that the reason it's called demon gate is because there's a demon there, not representing the harshness of winter, but actually as the guardian. There are guardian demons everywhere. They're all over the roof. They're outside of the house. They're in front of temples. Those demons, they are strong. They look fierce, but, well, winds can be very fierce. So it's considered a source of bad wind, bad weather, Ushitora. And it has a guardian deity, and that's Kokuzu Bosatsu. Almost no one's ever heard of her, unless you were a girl becoming a lady at 13. There's a very famous temple in Kyoto, out in Arashiyama, that has a very special ceremony for girls of 13. They become a woman, and their sleeves are cut short. So I think they can do a little more work. None of those long trailing sleeves, but very few people outside of Kyoto, and probably very few people in Kyoto, know about Kokuzu Bosatsu, but he, sometimes somewhat feminine looking, in fact, most of the Buddhist deities have a tender quality, which may be identified as feminine. It's not. So Ushitora are protected by Kokuzu Bosatsu. Very, very popular. One of the earliest images in the Heian period was were images of Kokuzu Bosatsu. Kokuzu means the empty universe treasure, translated many, many different ways. There is a companion to Kokuzu, we might say the sky, and the companion to that is the very humble and very endearing saint almost is Jizo. Jizo is the earth keeper. Kokuzu is the heaven keeper. Now, moving on, or we'll never get anywhere. So we're at the rabbit, and that's Monju, Manjushri. Manjushri had a wonderful debate with any number of people, including Vimalakirti. Vimalakirti had a hut about the size of a yojohan. And he, Vimalakirti, Yuima in Japanese, he entertained a lot of people at his home, but these were very important guests, and they included deities that had thrones the size of mountains. Well, that's a problem, considering there are 80 myriads that are going to come to visit. Not all at once, but even one is enough. So someone told Vimalakirti, Yuima, go see Manjushri, Monju. Monju rides a lion, an actual lion, not one of the sons of the Dragon King. Moving on to Tatsu and me, dragon and snake. They join together, Tatsumi. Tatsumi is another direction, also a very popular boy's name. My dear, wonderful, very close friend, Paul Nagano, his Japanese name is Tatsumi, but different characters. They like the sound Tatsumi. Tatsumi is where the good wind comes from, and that's why the Nijiriguchi is there. That's the little Nijiriguchi right where it says fourth moon, me. That me is a snake, right? Dragon and snake. And their protector is Fugen. Monju and Fugen kind of go together. One rides an elephant. Sorry, that's Fugen who rides an elephant, an actual elephant. Well, that's more complicated. And Monju rides a lion. And quite often they're together, sort of accompanying the historical Buddha, Shaka Butsu. This is touching the surface, and I'm gasping here already. We go to noon, that's the horse. Shogo, which is noon, is the horse, and the horse's protector is Seishi Bosatsu. And almost no one's heard of Seishi Bosatsu outside of being the companion to Kannon. Kannon and Seishi are accompanying the Amida Butsu when he comes to save your soul, bring it to paradise. Kannon holds the lotus and Seishi prays for your spirit. Hitsuji Saru, a rather challenging place. It's called the Urakimon, and it is the ram and the monkey, the Hitsuji and Saru, the ram and monkey. Hitsuji Saru is nowhere near as popular as Tatsumi. I'm sure many Japanese know of it, but any ill that gets into the tea room from the northeast is led out through the host's door, the Saruguchi, there right by Saru. And then moving on, Hitsuji Saru, those two signs, they are protected by the truly supreme Buddhist deity of Dainichi Nyorai. He is everything made manifest, Dainichi Nyorai. He doesn't really do all that much. He's got a lot to do. So he has a helper, and that helper is Fudo Myo, who's in who's the guardian of the next place. Now, if we go back a little bit, Dainichi is there. That's the Sadoguchi. And maybe the Teishu represents the active part of Dainichi. If you've been to a chaji, the Teishu opens the door, Shokyaku says, please come in, and the Teishu slides in, does not walk in. Most images of Dainichi are seated. Isn't that interesting? And then he or she slides out and may come in as Fudo, the wrathful. Google spell check doesn't like wrathful, but so they want me to put wrathful, so I put wrathful. Fudo. Fudo does all the work, divides and joins together. So the cock is in the west as 6 in the evening, autumn, sunset, all quite wonderful. And Fudo looks ferocious. He will bring you together or send you apart. Very fierce looking. Sits in the lake. One of our most interesting trigrams is the lake. And Fudo has an image of him sitting on a rock in probably the ocean, but maybe a lake. Let's move on to Inui. Again, a direction, Inui. These corner names, so to speak, they have a special kanji, and each of the corner, and each one of those characters for that word, for those joined here, inoshishi joined together is ken. And that has a special kanji all its own, and that is the trigram for heaven. I'm not making this up. I am putting it together. Those of you who might understand, well, who organized this stuff? I don't know. I know that I have seen things that make sense to me if they got put together. And I know it's coincidental, but there's Amida. Amida is the protector of the Northwest, and he happens to be in heaven. I think that's really curious, that turns out to be heaven. And Fudo is in the lake, and Fudo is the representative of Dainichi, who may be the host. I don't know. These things coincide. Well, I leave it to you because it's like a compass. What I use the compass to find my direction. Okay, so let's move on to some dogu. We'll fly through the dogu. Really, there is never enough time. Well, this is Ame no Uzume no Mikoto, also called Otafuku. She usually appears at the end of winter and the start of spring, but I have her here because she's holding the treasure jewel, and she's impersonating the goddess of the new year. She's got a new role to play. She's got Shochikubai, so she really is a New Year's treat. She couldn't be more abundant. So the details for these objects are going to be in the study guide. So let's just kind of move along here. And here is a rice barrel, and there's a rat. It's a rat. Everybody might like, oh, it's a mouse. It's the year of the mouse. No, it's the year of the rat. And if you've got rats, that means you've got food. And if you've got food, you're rich. And that's a rice bale. And this was a dear, dear treasured gift from Mori Sensei. Any object is to be revered, but especially when it comes from a great and dear friend who also happens to be perhaps your most important teacher in your whole life. Yes. Unfortunately, Kodai Zaimon, Saka-san, shortly after he gave that to me here in Boston, sorry, Sorry about that. That's a different group. Hi. Here is Kannon. She's from my altar, and she is the guardian of me, tiger, Ushi, and of rats. She's the guardian of the rats. I'm getting my zoo mixed up here. She's the guardian of the year of the rat. The hour of the rat is midnight. It's actually from 11 to 1. But I say a 24-hour day. It isn't. It's a 12-hour day. And they aren't hours at all. When the sun came up, this is in old Japan, when the sun came up, that was the hour of the hare. Ooh, when the sun came up. And noon is when the sun was high. Right, and that was the hour of the horse. When the sun set, that was the hour of the cock. I know there's a lot, but the three-legged black chicken that was in the east with the sun has somehow turned into the zodiac sign of the cock in the west. And the west has the moon with the rabbit, but the rabbit ended up in the east as the guardian, as the animal that needs the guardian from Monju. Is it confusing enough yet? I think it's unbelievable that these animals, they're fixed there, but no, they're not. They ended up in the other place. But if it's the hour of the hare and the hour of the cock when the sun rises or sets, winter hours are pretty short. In fact, they get shorter until the hour of the rat. And by the hour of the horse in midsummer, the hours are long. It's unbelievably fascinating, but no one can live like that. And who would keep track of it except farmers? And so the temples were given sort of announcing what time it was, and temple bells would ring, and the kanji, the character for temple, includes the word, I should say, the character for time indicates temple, because the temple told the time. It's temple time going on. This is impossible. There's too much too soon. Hi. Right, here's the ox appearing as the ox for tiger and ox, tiger, Ushi, Tora. So we see them again. And here's probably originally an ivory netsuke, but now a resin, not a netsuke, but a kogo. And for the year of the tiger, mama tiger and baby tiger. We know these are not pets. Hi, next. Wonderful hare. He is really a rabbit, but maybe a hare. He's got long ears, red eyes, and he's modeled after, or she, sorry, a snow rabbit. Kids in Japan take snow and make rabbits out of them, and then take the seeds from a nanten plant, nandina, and make little red eyes. But it's also made in the style of chop cut sculpture. Rather than smooth, it's just hacked out, called one cut. I forget that word. Tanya? And here's my guardian. This is the artist calls it a karajishi, which means a lion. So that's Monju's lion. And he's in the east with the guests. I wish I could say, I think this is it. I absolutely believe this stuff. I really do. I know that there is no Monju, but there is in our hearts, riding a beloved lion. They're not pets. This little creature here made in Shino has been with me for a very long time. And he was a great influence, I've mentioned this before, on Stephen Murphy, who's helped me tremendously with my ceramic projects. But this sort of changed his life. This style goes back in Japan, certainly to the time of Rikyū, and yes, the potter who made the tea bowls. I need help here. I suddenly went dry, as they say on the stage. Well, it'll come back. But the first raku potter, and he was making architectural ornaments for the roofs of Hideyoshi's palace, Chojiro. Sorry, I should remember that, but sometimes this brain. Hi, moving on. He's an incense burner, love it. This is made probably for the Western influence. This is a napkin ring. Sure looks about the size of a futaoki. It's a little short, but it's got a dragon on it. And it's cast, charmingly done, because it's mass produced. It doesn't mean it can't be absolutely wonderful. And there it is, clasping the flaming jewel, a little bit off to the left. And it is considered a futaoki because it is a cylinder. Hi. Next, please. Good. Now here is really the dragon. This is the Hoya Koro futaoki. It's got a dragon on it. It's got dragon claws. It's got 6 claws. Most dragons do not have 6 claws. A few rare ones do. But remember that when we were looking at the Ekikyo, the I Ching, that the futaoki was on the daisu, on the ji-ita, in the location of thunder. And some of you may remember, I said, oh, it's a shame it isn't wind because it's hollow and the wind blows through it, but this is better because the dragon brings thunder and lightning. Goes in and yo, turns it over. Hi, next. For the year of the snake, I wonder why that. This is the same object, but open, because it has it's modeled on an ink stamp, that's ink stamp in there. And it's got a snake on top. And this, those of you who are familiar with your kabuki, well, there's one in kabuki. Oh, certainly there's one of the most important ones in No. It's the only one of the only fixed stage props on the No stage is a hook in the ceiling to raise this bell. Well, not this bell, the bell of the play Dojoji. And it's a classic story of love and betrayal and revenge, and the maiden who was jilted, so to speak, turns into a snake and burns up the bell with the monk inside. And there she is on the top as the holder. Really very, very sort of whimsical and rather horrifying at the same time. Dojoji, for the year of the snake. And people guarded by snake. This is complicated. This is ivory. It's old. It's a chashaku. Ivory chashakus are the, quote, preferred chashaku for very formal presentations. Rikyū had an ivory chashaku that he lacquered black, so I don't know. But the elephant, this is to represent Fugen. I don't have any images of Fugen that I know of. And so this is to remind me of Fugen's elephant. The elephant is Airavata. He's got a name. And he was there when the Buddha became a part of his mother. During the inception of the Buddha, and was later, Airavata was later at his nirvana. Airavata is primarily the mount of Taishaku Ten, of Indra. Indra rides an elephant. And that elephant has 6 tusks. And the 6 tusks, pairs of 3, one of those tusks entered the side of Queen Maya when she became impregnated with the baby Buddha. So that's why I've got this here. Zoge is a problem. Zoge is a problem. But I cannot, once I put that 2 together, when we dig into the tea, and I think tea is more than just a plant, I think it represents something very much deeper than that. Very much deeper than that. Tea. Horse. Gary Cadwallader gave me this for the Year of the Horse. Absolutely wonderful. He's I guess he's a blacksmith. I'm not sure. But I don't have too many things of the horse. But there it is. And it's kind of, I have always wondered, well, which end is up? It should be turned over, probably. And probably it's round, like the circle of the Gotoku. And it's got cornery stuff, like the tripod. So it's probably this way displayed and turned over to hold up the lid. I don't know. What do you think? Let's see what's next. Well, here is Seishi, and she is the protector of the Year of the Horse. Again, not too many know him. Quite often she is identified as a female. Kannon is a male deity in female form. You can work that out. Seishi. Extraordinary. They would be bright gold, but that was 500 or 600 or 700 years ago. And they've had a lot of incense in between. And next. And here's a Hitsuji for our Dainichi guardian. Hitsuji. It's a yagi, mountain goat. It's not a sheep. It's not a lamb. It's a ram. It's a mountain goat. It's nimble. It was a wonderful program, nature program on television, PBS probably, and goats climbing up somewhat irregular, almost vertical cliff. Impossible. They can do it. Hi. Next. Monkeys. Now this was by Korai Zaimon. I got a little turned around in my zoo there for a moment. Year of the Monkey. This was in 1912. I think I got 1912. Could be. 2012. And he came for tea. And unfortunately, shortly after his visit here, he died. Wonderful, wonderful family of monkey. This is Hagi. It might be challenging to see that this is Hagi because we usually think of Hagi as a T-bone. Hi. Again, I'm sorry to go whiz through these because they are treasures. And the monkey is guarded by Dainichi. Hi. Here's another monkey. This is Sambaso's hat. Sambaso is one of the most important characters in No drama, and he starts the show. Okina, another play, and Takasago, another No play. Sambaso, the fellow comes out, the old guy, literally the old guy. Sambaso, so is the old guy, me, and wears this hat and rings the bells. Welcomes the new year. I got this in Issei, and the antique dealer was showing me how strong it was, and he was clattering it together, and I purchased it to get it up out of his clutches. Said it's very strong, absolute classic Bizen, and a really wonderful, wonderful piece. Hi. I don't know what it is. It works as a futaoki. It's got a rooster on it. It's got a drum. It's got a Shinto Shimenawa on the other side. So that's my representative of the year of the cock, of the year of the rooster. That's a Shinto drum with the 3 elements spinning around. It's got an illegible stamp on the very bottom. It's got a some sort of writing that's illegible for me. No one's been able to read it. It's too small for a condiment dish. Maybe it is meant to be a futaoki. I don't know. Right. And next, right, this is fudo. This is in my altar room. I guess we can call it an altar room. It's where all the Buddhist and Shinto stuff is. And this is Fudo on his rock in the sea with two companions. One's happy, one's not too happy. But Fudo's got his sword, maybe the chashaku, and he's got a rope which he can lasso you. See the top image? That's probably a chicken. Some of his flames behind him, some of them are 8 chickens, 8 flaming, it's the flaming chicken. I'll have the flaming chicken, please. Another interesting aspect of this is the hanging itself. It's all paper, but it's all gilt print because all of that would be fabric. This is tiny. This is only about 1.5 feet high, maybe 2 feet at the most. But it saved my life a number of times. This is from Narita. The temple that was at the airport, long before the airport. And next, this isn't even mine. This is Keiko Thayer's loan of an Emma, of a dog. I have nothing of a dog except Bill Thrasher, one of my great and dear friends. And this is an Emma, a picture horse, even though it's a dog, from Nikko, up at Nikko, north of Tokyo, Toshogu, which is, yes, I know. It's a whole era named after it. I'm getting at my nub's end here. The Tokugawa, Ieyasu's family tomb. So that was on loan for a show I did at a library out in Truro on the Cape many years ago. And next, which I think is almost our last, this is a wonderful, I was shocked when she gave it to me. This is Shiotsuki Aiko's gift for the year of the wild boar. Her brother being a wild boar, I don't think it's a comment, but it's absolutely adorable. And it's the companion Inui, northeast, and protected by Amida. So Amida's got a darling little wild boar to protect. If it includes Honsai Dai Sosho, it includes. So I think we have a preview of next week, or I should say next lecture, and Tanya's keeping us in suspense. It's a black bowl from Genkakuji. So let's open the floor. I'm afraid I've gone on, and it doesn't end here. This is too much. It's too much, and I'm sorry about that. But
well, thank you very much, Sensei.
Hello, I'm panting practically. Where's some water?
Well, would you like to do a quick tour of your room, Sensei?
Sure. Thank you. Because I've got a show and tell. Let me see if I can get this mobile. Yeah, this is sort of a quick rerun. I mean, can you imagine that from the firstborn generation of firstborn of the 15th generation to give that as a gift, and it happens to be her brother. And there's that, what is that thing? I have no idea. There's the wonderful monkeys. Hey, hey, there's the monkeys. And the absolutely beautiful yagi. You can see they're all tiny in those wonderful pictures. Sorry, I shouldn't call them wonderful pictures because I took them. And this, I have it because it's sort of featured, because it sort of echoes the kakemono. I found that wonderful kua wood shikishi stand in an antique shop up in Ogunquit, Maine. So there are wonderful things in America. In the 19th century, lots and lots of Bostonians went to Japan. Isabella Stewart Gardner was one of them, and she brought back a whole collection. I was working at Park Burnett in New York, but actually in California at that time. Park Burnett was opening a branch in Hollywood, hooray. And while I was there in California, Park Burnett sold the tremendously important collection, Asian collection of Isabella Stewart Gardner. And had I been in New York, I would have been able to participate in that event. Amazing. I had not yet been to Japan, so it wasn't quite the burning issue that it has become. I would ask Mori Sensei if I could ask one of my burning questions. That became a sort of standard, my burning questions. And those of you who may remember, those Hozuki are from last week, 2 weeks ago, and they are, the leaves have unaltered. One decided it would die, so it turned funny and fell off, but that's still there. So it's not a great tea flower because it lasts forever. You know, morning glory, not morning glories. Morning glories we hesitate not to, but yes, marigolds. Marigolds last forever, so they're not a good tea flower. It really is stunning, isn't it? This the absolute vitality of the calligraphy, and of course the familiar, the Dora, and the bell from Midera. And there's Monju's Karajishi. Oh, this is going to be a challenge, I think. But on some bells, I'm at the Chinese bell. You see those lumps, those spiral lumps? Well, look up there. Those are the two dragons. It's sort of hard to tell, they're pretty stylized. These are the 9 sons of a dragon king. Yes, they are. They don't look like much, but there they are. Isn't that unbelievable? Now, this bell, which is from Midera, it's a souvenir, it's no fabulous thing. Oh, there are the lumps. Well, those are not the 9 sons of the Dragon King. I think those are just lumps. Some of them are made to make more metal so that the sound will resonate more. Sometimes we have tea kettles, literally tea kettles, the kind you boil water and pour out. They have big lumps on them, bosses. I think the technical term for that is boss, for that lump. And there's the lotus. That's where you hit it. That lotus right there, that's where you strike the bell. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And then here's a moving view of little change. His head's a little changed. The glare from the gold is blinding us. Let's leave it that way. A sort of motion picture. I think you may remember, if you saw it last time, this was not dissimilar, and the one before was not dissimilar. I can venture, I can assure you that I do not have everything that looks to be gold.
Hey, Sensei. sorry to interrupt,
Yes,
but
this is the illegible stuff. And I'm on my way back. Do we have a question, Anthony?
yes, we do have quite a few coming in now. So so one is a quick comment that I think it's been heard that the horseshoes are used with the prongs up so the good luck doesn't fall out. I think it's nice.
Well, that is a very interesting perspective, and I appreciate that. Years ago, I was very much involved in country western dancing, and I had a trivia column for the group's newsletter. There is no consistency whatsoever. It's what you believe. I promise you, because everybody has a reason for it, of why it's that way.
Question was in China, we're told that the imperial dragons have 5 claws. In
Yes.
Japan, does this number of claws have any particular meaning?
There are many dragons. It got very complicated, independent of the 9 sons of the Dragon King. That 9, that is a really amazing number. We won't go into that right now. But Chinese emperor has 5 claws, his dragon. Princes have 4 claws. And as you get lower down, somewhat disparagingly, Japanese dragons have 3 claws. So the Japanese have not been looked very kindly upon in the past. In fact, Wa was, my understanding, was a rather disparaging term meaning dwarf. And the Japanese took the word Wa and gave it a different meaning besides dwarf. There's so much we really don't know about Rikyū, for example. But dragons, it was at one time, no one could even hint at a 5-clawed dragon because it represented the emperor. There are dragons with short horns, some with long horns, some that are young, some that are just growing. Well, a while ago I was in Japan at Hakone, looking out at Mount Fuji from Hikone. I always confuse those two. And there was a cloud formation climbing up Fuji, and I thought, you know, that looks an awful lot like a dragon. Not exactly that kind of dragon, but maybe a dragon. Who knows? What is a dragon? Well, it's a very potent image and has been for thousands of years. Some of the earliest 2, 3, 4,000 years ago, works of art that have dragons on them, things that look like dragons. Snakes, yes. Salamanders, newts, all those wonderful 4-legged creatures.
Okay. Another question is the phoenix rising from the ashes. Is this a folk story mythology? Oh, okay. No.
Now, we have to stop there.
Okay.
There are 2 types of phoenix. Egyptian phoenix grew out of the concept of the date palm. The palm fronds look like feathers. And there would be this phoenix that with long feathers coming out. Yes, I got bollocksed on an egg. Yes, they do have the egg. Sorry about that. And so they live a life and perish in flames and are reborn from the ashes. Well, and that all really has its basis in the date palm tree, of how utterly essential it has been for people who live in that area. You know, it supplies unbelievable amounts of food. Oh, I saw a bike tour of Japan the other day, and they were on an island off of Miura. Miura Oshima, maybe somebody. The island is almost completely covered with camellia trees, and they collect the seeds to make camellia oil. And they went to the little plant, and they had this small swimming pool, filled with seeds that they will steam and then crush to make camellia oil, to make their hair long and beautiful. I get off track about the phoenix. The phoenix should not be called the phoenix in China and Japan. It should be called a ho, or a mythical bird that resembles somewhat the phoenix. It doesn't at all. It may be a pheasant, it may be a parent. It has 5 colors. It mates. It has offspring. The hoe flies continuously and alights only in a paulownia tree, in a kiri. The emblem, the floral emblem for the Tokugawa, and I think a few others, is the kiri no hana, with the leaves, the 3 leaves. So the stem of 3 and 2 and 5 and 7, all that. The seed pods, the seeds are enormous, the pods are enormous, multiple flowers, huge leaves, and that is the only place that a phoenix will light a light. They do die. They are not reborn from ashes. That's only the Egyptian phoenix. So really the misnomer. Ho'unsai has been, in a sense, fighting this his entire life as Ho'unsai, phoenix clad. Yeah, his kanji, you should look up his kanji. In fact, it's in the guide, the study guide. Absolutely beautiful.
Well, maybe people would like to join us on audio and video, and maybe we can come together for a bowl of tea. We have a few more questions. Some of them seem quite deep, but
give me the question, and I'll go soon. I will go get my bowl.
Okay. I think on the note of whole, just we wanted to hear more about your interpretation of them being the lugs of the furo. Just if you have more to comment on that.
Yes. Complete aside here, lung, L-U-N-G, is the standard Chinese word for dragon. And so when you're reading along and you come up with these lungs, and I thought, what are the lugs? Yes, sorry, the kanski, yes. And right, on the top of Byodoin, they face inward. On the furo and the kama, they're facing outward with the rings. But so many of those incense burners with all the lions all over them, those aren't lions. Those are some of the sons of the dragon king. They look like lions, the one with a mouth in them. There's a list in the guide. It sounds like I'm pushing the guide, but you might as well. Let me
I'm going to turn on gallery mode, and I hope people will join us either to say hello or for a bowl.
I'm going to go get my bowl of tea.
Okay. I really love this futaoki here. And any questions we don't get to, feel free to send to Allan Sensei's email. The chanoyu2@hotmail.com is Allan Sensei's personal email address. There's no middleman there like there is with the Patreon, which I am managing. So feel free to ask him any questions I either skipped or forgot or we don't have time for, because we are going towards the end of our 108 minutes. So feel free to send him emails there.
I have returned with my bowl of tea, my Benishino bowl of tea. Some of you remind me of friends that I haven't seen in a very long time. And some of you are my friends I haven't seen in a very long time. I don't know if this is any fun for you, but I have learned so much,
Actually,
I feel as though you're here, but I know you're not. But at least I know you're here in a bowl of tea.
Actually, even though I've been redrawing that diagram for you for the past few months and editing it as we go, today's lecture was really nice to put a lot of the things together, even though I've been staring at the words, but to hear them and your thoughts about the locations. And yeah, it really sunk in today a little bit more.
So interesting about Dogu, this bowl, I know exactly where I got it. And oddly enough, my memory is still alert enough that I actually remember where I got it. Some things I have no idea where they came from. And you think, I'll never forget that. There's no point. Make notes. Take notes on everything. Unless you have a really, really good memory, and I don't think it'll hold up like you think it will. Faces, I was always pretty good remembering faces. Names, not so good. Quite a wonderful bowl, copied a million times. They're still wonderful because they're yours. The same raku bowl. You can imagine, especially a raku powder, who, I don't want to make I mean, everybody has made that bowl. Why do I need to make that bowl? Well, of course, because it's your bowl. If you're making 500 a day, a little bit of that kokoro might be lost in the wheel. But yeah, if you make it, I've made a couple of tea bowls. They will not be seen unless I'm really running out of stuff. And those cabinets over there, they are filled with chawan. I think I have about 100 and some. And I said, I teach. I should have these things. Oh,
Well,
there is some little amusing thing. When I was living in Japan in this extraordinary house in Genkakuji Maicho with friends in various locations, and had teas a lot. It's there. You can go get the fish and the veggies and the stuff. It's there. That's an excuse. It's here. It may not be the same thing, but it's here. Anyway, so I had a few things, and one was a memorial from my mother and father. And it was on Halloween, but in those days, there went out a decree from, no, that's another story. Halloween wasn't so big. It's huge now. You'd think Japan had created Halloween. And it was on Halloween, it was Furo, and I opened the row And so the 2 rooms were, it was a jujo in Kyoto, could have tennis in there. And there was a yojohan right connected to it. So we would go from the furo right into the row, not all 20 of us or something. But I had a little souvenir made, and it's a sake cup. Ando Takumi made them, and it's ine, not inoko. Why do we open the row? Somebody out there can answer, why do we open the row on the boar day? I don't know, but I saw
you have an answer there.
kilo, I think. Say what?
There was some guest movement, so I was curious what it means.
Yeah. Inoko mochi, you know, those wonderful, I don't know if any of you have had inoko mochi, but it's the same stuff in a new form. It's really wonderful and tasty. On beans, gyuhi, and you see spots on the top, so it looks like baby boars spots. Absolutely wonderful and charming and a great story. Inoko, ine, is to connect. You don't end with one cycle. You lap over into another cycle, continue that on. So that boar carries over into the rat. So it's continuous. It doesn't stop at the boar and begin. It overlaps. And so the boar month is, and you have to look in the book, or at my diagrams, you have to look in the book. The 10th month should begin the month of the wild boar. And that's sometime in late October, early November. Robiraki, anybody know when Robiraki is this year? Because there are 3 of them. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. People will mock me. Yes, I'm waiting for dying for questions.
Well, Sensei, no, I think at this moment we're probably a little over time, and I would like to, maybe you can finish your thought here. I didn't want to continue with questions.
No, it's time for homework.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
try to read it.
Go back into gallery mode, and maybe we can all thank Sensei, and thank you everyone who stayed along and for coming. And Sensei, arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Bye. Bye. Oh, I know you.
Thank
you. Thank you so much, Sensei.